Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Widener University chat this evening. Thank you for bearing with us while we work through a few technical issues there. Tonight's session is called Ask the Experts, and I'm joined tonight by a few colleagues. I'll let them take a couple seconds to introduce themselves, and then we are just going to open things up for questions. So I will let my colleagues, Dr. Long, why don't you start and introduce yourself, and we'll go from there.
Oh, thank you, David, and a warm welcome to everyone on the chat. I am Dr. Janet Long, and I'm the Executive Director of our Centralized Career Center at Widener. We call it Career Design and Development. I earned 2 degrees at Widener, so I'm also a proud alumna.
Chris, why don't you go next, please?
Hi, my name is Chris Latham, and my pronouns are she and her. I'm the founding director of college counseling at Washington Latin Public Charter School in DC, and I'm starting my 11th year at Latin, but also worked for over a decade in selective and highly selective college admissions before coming to Washington Latin.
Thank you, Chris. And Adia?
Hi, my name is Adia. I'm a senior marketing major. So on campus, I'm a part of a few organizations. I'm the president of the Pi Tau chapter Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. And I'm also in the Widener Marching Band, and that's just to name a few of the things I'm a part of. And I would say my biggest piece of advice to seniors that are looking into going to colleges, make sure that you're really looking up which field you want to go into, and make sure that it actually fits with your personality and it will be something that you want to do for a lifetime.
Yeah, with that, Adia, Dr. Long and Ms. Latham, if there's a nugget of advice you might give the folks that are in the room tonight, what might that be as they start exploring or have already started their exploration of college?
Yeah, so I can start. I would encourage everyone out there to seek support as soon as you get to college, to not be afraid to ask questions. You're not in it alone. At Widener, not only our career office, but our whole division of student success is here to help with every aspect of academics and planning, living on campus. And we want you to be successful. We're here for you. We're a small college where the faculty and administrators get to know the students. So at any college, just encourage you to really ask the people around you for help and support, and you'll pay it back in the future.
Excellent.
I think for the high school students who are in this chat, I think what can be really important, despite whether you are starting school in person or if you are doing it remotely or some hybrid version of that, to go along with what Dr. Long said, is just really reach out for support, ask questions, let people know that you need help. There are lots of question marks in the admissions process this year for both sides of the desk, whether it's the high school side or the college side. So it's really important just to ask questions and do the best you can to simply put your best foot forward. That's all you can do.
Excellent, thank you. Well, we'll get into some of the questions that folks are asking in the chat today. The first one I think is a great one. Adia, someone asked, what do they need to do to apply for a music scholarship? And since you were in the marching band, I thought you might be the perfect person to pose that question to. If you want to take that.
Yes, so this is how you can apply to the marching band. So first you want to contact Dr. Moyer at Widener University and tell him that you want to audition. And then once you audition, you based off your audition process, you'll be granted a scholarship, $2,000 to $3,000, and that lasts throughout all 4 years of you being at Widener.
Yeah, so yeah, it's a pretty easy process for music. I think, like Adia said, you would do a simple. Well, once you're accepted to Widener, then you would do an audition with Dr. Moyer. It's not it's not a super in-depth or difficult audition. I think he mostly wants to know that people can play relatively well, and are interested in actually being part of the band and are you know, somewhat serious about the music they're pursuing. But Dr. Moyer is the right person to contact. So I have a question here. So my GPA is not exactly where I need it to be at the moment, but will be once I finish my final courses at DCCC, so Delaware County Community College, in December. My question is, should I still submit my transcripts now or should I wait? By the way, I applied for fall 21 nursing. If no one else is comfortable answering that, I will take that one. But anyway, well, Letitia, excuse me. You definitely, I would go ahead and submit your application as soon as you're comfortable doing so. Being a transfer student from community college, there's not as much pressure on you to meet particular deadlines, other than to make sure that you have your application submitted prior to the beginning of the term you're most interested in. Nursing does have some specific requirements that they're looking for in transfer students. So I would definitely encourage you to speak with Karina, C-R-I-N-A, Dreyer, D-R-A-Y-E-R, in the Widener admission office, and she can work with you in terms of looking at where you are currently, where you need to be, and also can talk to you about the application process for the nursing program. Similarly, Alyssa asked, is the nursing program hard to get into? Alyssa, the nursing program is competitive. It's so there is going to be criteria required above and beyond normal admission to the university. So you're going to have to meet a minimum GPA requirement. If you have SAT scores or ACT scores, there will be minimum SAT or ACT. If you would do apply test optional, there will be an optional admission process for nursing as well, where they'll look at grades and specific coursework in math and science and some of the other things that are on your transcript to help determine your admissibility to the nursing program. It is not impossible to get into, and we do not have a cap on our program. So even though you some schools say, oh, we only have 30 seats or 60 seats or something to that effect, Widener currently does not have a cap on its program, on its nursing program. So if you're qualified for admission, you will get into the program. So, Katie asks, are classes going live or online this fall? Katie, I'm assuming you're talking about the fall of this current fall semester. Right now, we are in kind of a hybrid situation where we do have some students on campus who can take classes on campus, but also, but the bulk of our students, including all of our first-year students, are taking classes online from home. We just thought that was the best process in terms of keeping everyone safe as much as we could. Let's see. Can you tell me if you have any internships for students to work with law firms, and what is the percentage of students attending it? I'm assuming you're talking about the law school in the last 3 years. Dr. Long, this sounds like it might be right up your alley.
Yeah, and so students as early as freshman year can do what's called an externship or a job shadow over winter break. And we have had many of our first year students do externships with current law students at Widener or our law graduates and alumni who work at law firms. And again, that opportunity is open to anyone. We support all of our students in law school applications at Widener and other schools as well. I would probably defer on some of the more detailed law school specific questions to either our Commonwealth or Delaware law colleagues. And would be happy to follow up with that information and their contact information if that would be helpful.
Great. Adia, I was going back to our previous question about classes, whether they're live or or online this fall. You are a senior and you're in classes, so could you share a little bit about I know we're only a couple days into things here, but could you share a little bit about your experiences this year so far in your classes?
Yeah, so all of my classes, I'm taking 5 classes this semester. They're all virtual. It definitely is a little bit different this time around, but actually not too bad, like how people would think it would be. I just log in at least like 5 minutes before the class starts, log into my Zoom classes. The lecture goes on and it's pretty much the same. It just feels a little bit different, of course, because we're not physically in like one space anymore.
Okay. Do professors hold office hours? How often can students interact with professors outside of class? Anyone is welcome to take that.
So I'll be happy to answer that. Our office works very closely with faculty, and they absolutely hold office hours. In fact, our faculty tend to be very close with students, and I've known many of them to actually text with students. So they're also available very much outside of official office hours. Now, for the most part, office hours are happening on Zoom. And again, just to echo the earlier comments that Ms. Latham had made as well, we really encourage our students to connect with faculty. We think, again, that's the strength of a small college, that there's that kind of access. So when you're at Widener, for example, there aren't any courses that are taught by, let's say, a graduate assistant. Courses are being taught even in first year by highly experienced professors. And that could be a point of difference. And they really love teaching and they want to meet with students.
And it's a great opportunity to build relationships with your professors because, as Dr. Long mentioned earlier, you might end up applying for an externship or an internship and would need a recommendation from one of your professors. And so not only do going to office hours help you in terms of understanding the content that's being discussed in class, but it helps with building relationships with your professors. And as they get to know you better, they may learn of opportunities in which you may be interested and can put those in front of you as well.
Katie asks, my SAT was canceled last Saturday and I have already applied for Widener. Should I contact an admissions person and let them know? Chris, I don't know if you have any advice for folks that may have run into SAT or ACT issues in terms of their test being canceled, or I kind of like the quote you mentioned earlier.
So I think a lot of students and families are experiencing test date cancellations or sites being closed at the last minute because of the pandemics. Luckily, the silver lining in all of this is that nearly 60% of colleges are test optional. And so colleges are really understanding of the fact that not every student has access or the ability to be able to sit for a test. And if you are applying to a college, for instance, that does require standardized testing, it's a matter of communicating that to the admissions office. But I also believe that you simply just need to put your best foot forward, right? Don't write your essays at the last minute. Take time putting together your application, writing your essays. Be thoughtful about who you're asking in terms of writing recommendations for you. And if you are at a school where you are able to meet and have access to your high school counselor, also work just to build a relationship with them and ask them questions that are specific to the institutions where you're applying. But there are some things this year that are going to be out of everyone's control. And so it's going to be even more important to communicate with the admissions offices at the schools where you're applying, including Widener.
Excellent. Thank you. Zachary asked, do you have job shadow experience for business or computer science majors?
So computer science and business majors are eligible for what's called our co-op program, along with engineering majors. So there are many students who select those majors just to participate in co-op. And At Widener, you can gain up to a full year of co-op experience and still graduate on time in 4 years. And I will be honest, you will take courses during the summer. And so there is a trade-off, but employers tell us all the time how much they value co-op experience. And the way it works is that you can do your first co-op, which is a 4-month co-op, as a rising sophomore. And so you would take courses in the summer before your sophomore year. And then in the fall of sophomore year, you would go out on your first co-op. Then you could go on as a junior heading towards senior year and do a second 8-month co-op. That would be in spring of your junior year and would cross all the way into the summer. And that second co-op experience tends to be even richer and more meaningful. You have more coursework under your belt at that point, and you could do either 4 or 8. Sometimes it differs by majors or both, but it's really a powerful experience of just what it's like to be in the working world. Also at Widener, students who participate in our co-op program are required to do a full professional development series. So we literally teach you how to search for a co-op, professional communication, workplace ethics. We even do advanced Excel training. So you get a lot of professional development. And Adia, you have some exposure to this. You might want to comment on it too.
Yes. So I did a co-op my junior year. I worked at Pico for 4 months, and then into the summertime I worked at a small company called Pink Tea Pop. And it was a great experience. At Pico I learned what it felt like to be in the corporate environment. And then when it came to Pink Tea Pop, I learned even more stuff about just project management and writing blogs and creating social media posts.
Adia, this next question is probably good for you too. What kind of classes have smaller section meetings? What are our classes like? Or what's the classroom experience like in a typical setting?
So most of the class size at Widener is only I believe a maximum of 25 students. We have our faculty to student ratio is 13-1. So a lot of times you're not going to experience a class size where it's 200 plus students. And I know that from my experience, within business classes, I tend just to be in class sizes that are about 25 students. So the teacher can focus on you if you are having any trouble.
Excellent. We've got a couple of questions about admission. So Katie asks, will early decision applications find out acceptance before rolling applications? Katie, first off, we don't have an early decision process at Widener, so we don't have a binding early decision in a formal sense. We do have early action admission. So if you are interested in applying early and finding out your decision early, you may do so, but it is non-binding. Early decision is a binding process where you agree to enroll at an institution if you're accepted. If you're interested in early action admission, you can apply. If you apply by the 1st of November and complete your application by the 1st of November, you will receive your admission decision no later than the Thanksgiving holiday. So we'll have that some sort of notification out to you about where your application stands before you break for your Thanksgiving feast. So yes, early action applications will find out their decision prior to the rolling admission regular decision folks. But once we get into our rolling regular decision process, we'll notify students as soon as their application is complete. So if we have everything we need to make a decision on an application, we'll go ahead and notify those students right away. So generally we can get through an application once it's complete within a week or two when we're in the regular decision process. So it's not a long wait if you are enrolling admission, but early action folks will find out prior to the Thanksgiving break.
And David, complete application at Widener? What do students have to have submitted before you can review their application?
I'm sorry, what was that?
What makes a complete application at Widener? What do you need to have from a student in order to review their application?
Certainly. We offer, as I said earlier, we offer two different ways to apply. We offer a option where if you have or have been lucky enough to take the SAT or ACT and have scores, you can apply with those test scores. In that sense, all we need to complete your application is your application, your official high school transcript, and your test scores minimally. If you have letters of recommendation, if you have an essay and you do submit those things, we will read them and use them as part of our review of your application, but they're not required pieces to complete your application. If you are in a situation that roughly about 2/3 of the country is in that you have been unable to take the SAT or perhaps been unable to take it more than one time, then you may apply test optional. And in that sense, we would need you to submit your application, your high school transcript, an essay would be required as part of that process. And that is basically it. Again, if you have letters of recommendation, those are not required documents, but they are helpful in the admission process because they provide us a touch more information about the student and help round out that student beyond just what's on their transcript. So that's minimally what is required. There is no application fee, whether you apply with a common application or whether you apply with the regular Widener application, which is on our website. There is no application fee. So it's free, and it's a relatively simple admission process for you and for us to review your application. So Sam asked, what do I need to get accepted into the physical therapy master's program? Sam, that process is automatic. And given the current situation, we don't have the current year's criteria exactly mapped out and outlined yet. So we are still working on that process. But minimally, there will be a minimum grade and average required for that program. Once we have that information, feel free to reach out and we can share a bit more information with you. Like I said, there will be a process for folks with test scores, but also there'll be a process for folks without test scores as well. It is an automatic review. There's nothing you need to do separately to apply to the PT master's degree. We will review your application at the freshman level and offer you admission either to the 3+3 accelerated physical therapy program or to the 4+3 program. So that means either 3 years undergrad, 3 years in graduate school, or 4 years undergrad and 3 years at the graduate level for the PT program. But basically, if you are admissible to the 3+3, we'll offer that to you. If you're not admissible to 3+3, but you're admissible to the PT program, then we will offer you the 4+3 offer admission. That it is then up to you to make sure that you meet the criteria for admission to the master's degree. And if you do so, then we have not necessarily a reserve seat, but preferred seat admission to the master's degree for Widener graduates.
I just wanted to add for a minute that you would have a doctoral degree at the conclusion of the program. It's a DPT.
Yes. Katie asked, can I double major in mechanical and biomedical engineering? And then the short answer, Katie, is yes, you can. There are ways to double major in engineering. I would imagine it's not super easy. I'm not an academic advisor, so I wouldn't begin to know how to tell you how to do that. But perhaps Dr. Long might have a touch more information than I do.
Yeah, you would definitely work with the academic advisor or the advisor in the engineering discipline. There would be in a way, it's easier to have two majors in the same school, like the School of Engineering, because the chairs would be speaking to each other. But you would have a lot of overlapping requirements and some different ones. It's possible that there would be a higher amount of credits to graduate. There's so many majors and minors that you can combine at Widener. You can double major across schools and colleges, but it's very common, and it sounds like such an ambitious and interesting goal to combine those two together. And I just wish you the best of success. That's really inspiring.
Damaris asked, would you say that tutoring in the Career Center is accessible? Would you have to sign up for a meeting or a tutoring session?
Hey, I'm happy to take that question. Both academic tutoring and career design and development are part of our student success division. And you can make appointments. We also have walk-in, or in the present environment, we have Zoom-in hours. And so, for example, during the week, the Career Center has open Zoom-in hours without an appointment Monday through Thursday afternoons, and you can pop in for a quick question with a career counselor. You also, from day one, have a personal career counselor assigned to you based on your major, including exploratory studies, which is undecided. And you have an unlimited number of meetings with that person, again, as early as first year. And for academic tutoring or academic coaching, you would need to sign up for that. You would make an appointment. It's a really easy process. For tutoring and for academic coaching, we'd want to match you with the right person, especially with tutoring, with a peer tutor, with a student tutor who is experienced and strong in the area in which you'd like tutoring.
Excellent.
Did you want to add anything to that,
Chris,
Adia?
maybe you might want to take. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Anything I would add to that? Yeah, so academic support services, they're really helpful around campus. I know that even sometimes they'll send out emails and they'll ask people, do they possibly handing their notes maybe for English or math class to help someone out, and they're easily accessible. And I even used it one time for my finance class, and my tutor, she definitely helped me.
Excellent. Chris, you might want to take this one. I have a student who asked what are the advantages to completing the common application versus a regular institutional application?
I think the important factor to consider is the full list of colleges where you intend to apply. There are so many different things and things that you have to check off of your list to do in this process that you want to try to be as efficient as possible. So as you're looking at the list of schools where you plan to apply, if the majority of those schools, if not all of them, take the common application, I would use the Common App. And the added advantage is that even if there might be a little bit more work that goes into completing the common application for Widener, the Common App for Widener is still free, so you're not missing out on that benefit. But it's really about just being efficient in this process. And if you can get away with filling out as few applications as possible and having to write as few essays as needed in this process, you would definitely want to go that route.
I have a quick follow-up question for you. And I realize there's no, proper answer to this particular question, but do you have any advice on how many schools a student should apply to? Yeah.
That's a great question. When I'm working with my students, their lists can start off pretty long. I have students who will start off with 20 and 30 schools on their list as they're beginning this process. Ultimately, though, I feel that if a student has done their due diligence in terms of researching each college and has determined what I call their non-negotiables, they've determined what those are. In other words, like the school has to have this particular major, or there have to be this many students of color, or this type of diversity on campus. It can't be too far from home, or it can't be too close to home. but you want to look and see that the school meets the non-negotiables that you have established, and even more so than digging into the academic programs, if you know what you want your major to be, to make sure that that program is really going to offer you what your hoped for outcome is. So doing your due diligence in terms of research, and then parents, you doing your due diligence in terms of the financial piece. Colleges are required to have a net price calculator on their website. And so that allows you to put your family's financial information into that calculator to give you a sense of what kind of need-based aid you would be eligible to receive. And I want to make it clear that it's need-based aid, that for most colleges, there isn't a merit scholarship component in the net price calculator. So if the student has done their due diligence and the parent has done their due diligence in terms of making sure that the schools on the list are going to be a good fit, I tell my students that 8 to 10 schools to which they're submitting applications is enough. And that gives you the opportunity to have a few what I call reach schools on your list, where the school might be looking for this academic profile and you're here. And a few schools that are what are called the 50-50 schools, where you sort of align with what they're looking for and you have a 50-50 chance of being accepted. And then a few what I call likely schools, where your profile might be here and the college is looking for something here. So you have an increased or a significantly increased chance of getting in. But I feel like if everyone has done their job in terms of research and really doing their due diligence, 8 to 10 schools should be sufficient.
Excellent. Xavier asks what a high school student could do to prepare to pursue a degree in engineering. I'll throw that out to anyone who might want to answer, and then I will add some comments as well.
Yeah, so I'll throw out a couple of ideas on that one. I mean, you could certainly get involved in clubs even in the senior year of high school. Robotics clubs, for example. Widener has one of the few robotics engineering programs in the country at the undergraduate level. And you might also look for even brief or virtual these days of engineering camps. I know that we offer an engineering program for young women at Widener. We also offer a mini engineering camp, a robotics competition. So even in your neighborhood, you know, at your own high school, you may be surprised if you talk to your guidance counselor or to your math and science teachers of what could be available right in your area, even if it's virtual now. Did you want to add to that, Ms. Latham? Or?
Yes. So Xavier, I'm not sure if you're a high school senior or what year you are in high school, but in terms of academic preparation, you really want to push yourself in math. Some high schools only require maybe 3 years of math. And so depending on the schools that you're looking at, engineering can be competitive. And so even if your high school only requires 3 years of math, you do want to take that 4th year. And you want to try at least to get to calculus, at the very least, pre-calculus, but certainly you want to get to calculus for engineering. And then not only listening to the advice that Dr. Long gave about taking advantage or participating in robotics clubs or virtual camps, but also making sure that you, depending on the type of engineering in which you're interested, have a very strong background in physics. And so if you have the opportunity to take an advanced or even an AP physics or an IB physics, depending on your school offerings, certainly do that as well to try to prepare as much as you can before you start college.
I couldn't agree more. And Chris, you took most of my my thunder, so that's okay. Definitely math and science are going to be big preparation points, and you want to make sure you have that 4th year in both of those areas for sure, in my opinion. Parker asked, do we have a media arts field? Parker, we do have media arts, I guess, in terms of like, I think you're speaking of like communications, but you might be thinking about a traditional arts in terms of painting, drawing, photography, those types of things. But we do have a communication studies major that includes radio and TV broadcasting, public relations, advertising, I can't even think of all the rest of them, but there are other
Graphic
other
design,
areas of emphasis. Film,
or digital media.
graphic design, film, yeah, digital media informatics, which is a really interesting area of study. So I think we can help you if that's the route you're going. We do have minors in more of the traditional arts if that's really what you're looking at. So and you can also major in fine arts, which is kind of a study of arts, kind of in general. It's not going to teach you to become necessarily an artist, but it will teach you about art and teach you an appreciation of art from multiple different perspectives. Let's see. A couple more questions here. I'd like advice on how to choose a major. Can anyone provide help on how to figure this out?
That is such a great question. And I'm thinking Ms. Latham and I will have some different perspectives. Do you want to start from the high school perspective, Ms. Latham, and then I'll jump in?
Sure. Oftentimes when I'm working with students who are undecided, when they begin the process of working with me, I simply tell them as they're researching colleges to look for colleges where you don't have to know right out the gate what you have to have what you want your major to be. And luckily there are lots of colleges who allow you to take a variety of classes that will meet general graduation requirements, but also allow you to explore the curriculum. So you might take a botany class to meet some type of science requirement, or you might take Latinx history to satisfy a social science course. But in terms of the high school side, I think it's really just thinking about what your strengths are. And as you're meeting the requirements for high school graduation, especially in junior and senior year, students typically have a little bit more flexibility in terms of choosing the classes that they want to take. And so that can help to give you an early start to explore some of the classes that aren't required for graduation at your high school, like maybe a world religion class or a Greek mythology course, to get a sense of maybe what's of interest to you or what isn't. But I also think when you have the opportunity to take advantage of some of these virtual experiences, summer programs, things like that, that will even happen over the course of the school year, so that you can sort of get a taste of what engineering might be like, or nursing or classics, those can also be really great opportunities to explore different types of programs or majors, or even taking online classes through platforms like edX or Coursera, where you can take classes for free in a variety of different areas. Those are some of the ways, even as a high school student, you can begin to sort of explore and sort of figure out, even if by sort of process of elimination, what potential majors may be of interest to you.
So I will build on all the great things that Ms. Latham just said. I really kind of glommed on to the word explore, because that's the word of the day for all of first year. So even if you're a business student, for example, and you know you want to go into business, we want to help you to explore what aspect or what field in business would interest you. All of our students are able to take a career assessment called the Focus 2. And some of you may have used an assessment called Naviance in high school, and Focus builds on that. It's not meant to tell you what to do, but it's meant to tease out your interests and make recommendations. And it connects with other sites that are published by the Bureau of Labor. We show you from your first year how you can actually go in and look at not only descriptions of a field, but look at fields that are similar, all the different ways you can use a major, what the average earnings are, even breaking it down by state, and what the forecast is for growth in the field. So is the field projected in the next 10 years, to grow by 15%, or maybe it's going to decline by 15%. And again, that's not the only criteria to make a decision, but we want you to have all of the information. We have a pretty robust exploratory studies program where you don't need to declare a major until your second semester of sophomore year, but we advise you. So if you're, and this sounds kind of like a contradiction to be a major in exploratory studies, but you do have an academic advisor who will tease out your interests and then help you to select courses to pursue many paths while also keeping an eye on an efficient path to graduation. And I guess the final thing I would say is that more than 50% of college students in general change their major at least once. And people, okay, there you go. And people change jobs and careers. The average student graduating today will have 7 different jobs and 3 different careers. They might be tangential, they might be connected, but they'll be different. The senior career counselor on my team actually changed her major 6 times while she was in college. And she's one of the strongest career counselors on our team, I think, because she really identifies with that. So at least at Widener, we have you covered in terms of expiration, but even if you think you've made a decision, you're not committed for life. So I just wanted to add that.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Adea, I think we have a good question for you. What's it like to live on campus? How are the residence halls? Is the food pretty good? We have a couple questions related to living on campus. What's there to do? That kind of stuff.
I like living on campus. This year I don't live on campus due to the pandemic, but like in my past 3 years, freshman through junior year, I lived on campus. So I will say that I'll go all the way back to freshman year. Okay, so freshman year, I was partnered with someone that I didn't know, but even still then, like, it was really cool. Like, she was a really, like, nice girl. And typically in a freshman dorms, it's just 2 people to 1 dorm. And then you have a community bathroom. So that means that everybody on that 1 floor, they all use that 1 bathroom. And all of the halls on Widener University, they tend to be separated by gender. So, for example, the first floor would be boys, second floor would be girls, then the third floor would be boys again. Then once you get up into and then once you get to sophomore status, when you're upperclassman, you can choose to live in a suite. So in a suite is we have 2 halls. It's called Harris Hall and Metropolitan Hall, and you can live with up to about 4 to 6 people. So for the suites that are 4 people, you have your 2 bedrooms with your 2 people that live in there. And then you have your whole entire kitchen, you have your living area. So it's really nice. And even just being around Widener's campus is so small. So if you live in Harris Hall, the library is right across the street. Oh yeah, and then also going to the food. The food is also amazing too. And they just put a Starbucks on campus and they're putting a sushi place on campus too. So a lot of exciting things coming.
Excellent. Great. Thank you so much. Should a high school senior apply early or wait a bit to see if an SAT becomes possible? Chris, maybe this is a good one for you.
Yeah. I think ultimately it depends on the schools where you're considering. With some colleges, not all, but with some colleges, there is an advantage to applying earlier through an early action non-binding program than waiting later. I think if you do have test scores now, I think the important thing is to look at the schools where you're applying and how your scores align with what it is they're looking for, especially if these are schools that are not test optional. I think overall, if you do have a strong academic record, meaning that you have taken a challenging course load, whatever that means in the context of what your high school offers, and you've been successful in that curriculum, I don't think that not having a test score or waiting to get higher test scores should necessarily prevent you from applying earlier if that's what you would rather do.
And I think I'm not sure if this is still on the common application, but if I recall correctly, there is a space for you to indicate where you may be taking future tests or what dates you have taken an SAT and when you plan to take them. So again, I think you need to look at the schools you're applying to. If you're applying to a very selective institution, it might be worth your benefit to apply early, and regardless of what your test scores are currently or whether you have the ability to take them. But there, in many instances, I've kind of lost my train of thought, but in many instances you have flexibility with most colleges and universities have flexibility in their test scores, and I think the current situation has created a lot of additional flexibility in the process. So I would say whatever you're most comfortable doing is probably the best thing for you to do. So I don't know if I helped or didn't in that particular answer, but it is. You talk to your admission counselor. Quite honestly, contact the folks like me who work in the admission office. We and ask us straight up what we're looking for. I mean, I don't tend to beat around the bush. I tend to kind of try to give the students I work with the kind of the down low on where they are, and then also kind of what they can do to improve their opportunity. Or, well, I mean, to be honest, I'll basically say, look, you're in really good shape, or this is what we need to work on, and to have you to give you a chance for admission to Widener. And I think most admission offices at most schools, if you contacted them and said, hey, I'm very interested in your school. This is where I am. These are the roadblocks I have. I don't have access to testing. Is that going to be a problem? If you ask, they'll answer, and they'll usually answer very honestly about how that will affect your opportunity for admission. So I think contact the admission offices of the schools that you're interested in. That'll be the best vein of attack in that particular question. Sam asked, can you apply to college as a junior? Sam, I think that there's some extra questions that we need to ask of you in that particular in this particular instance. I don't know if you plan on graduating early, or if you are just trying to apply early and then finish your senior year. In most instances, we're going to ask you to at least get into your senior year before you apply to college. If you happen to be graduating early as a junior, then yes, you can apply now. But typically, we're going to ask you to wait until the beginning of your senior year to apply for admission to college. Bryce asked, what does my GPA have to be accepted in your sports programs? Bryce, typically you need to be admissible to Widener, and then if you decide to enroll, then you would need to meet the GPA requirements to play. And those are established by the athletic department in cooperation with the coaches. So your coach will give you, will tell you right up front what you need to do in order to stay eligible and be able to play. So if you have questions about what that is prior to enrollment, I would suggest contacting the coach of the sport you're most interested in. They'll be pretty upfront with you on what you need to do to stay eligible and be able to play. So, let's see. It is 7:56. I think we have time for one or two more questions, depending on how long we go on our answers. But Damaris asked, as a student, how do you manage paying your student bills and academics? I don't know if anyone wants to tackle that one.
Nadia, do you have a campus job?
Oh, do I have a campus job? Yes. So you can also do what is it called? Work study. Oh, I did a work study at Career Design Development, and they usually give you a grant. It's like I believe award up to $1,000. Each semester that you do your work study. I know that typically at Widener they usually give like a pretty generous amount of money towards scholarships when you like first apply based off of like your SAT scores and also the other criteria that they also look at. And then there's also other opportunities just around campus. You could go to the financial office, the Bursar's office, which is Lipcomb Hall on Widener's campus, and ask them where you can find more scholarships.
And I want to.
Yeah, I would add that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, in terms of work study, the thing I always remind my students and parents is that if you do receive work study in your financial aid package, say that you are given a work study package of $2,500. Know that that isn't just money that's given to you or applied to your bill. You actually have to get an on-campus job to earn that money. And then ideally what's expected is that you use that money to pay back to the college, right? To help pay down your tuition and your room and board, right? So if you end up spending money on like pizza or getting your nails done or extra lives on Candy Crush, whatever money you're spending on those non-school related things, you still have to find a way to make up for that to be able to pay down your tuition and your room and board. So just keep that in mind as you get closer to your end of senior year and you're looking at your financial aid packages, that you have an understanding of what it means to have a work study, have work study as part of your financial aid.
And I just wanted to add,
Damaris, I would also
can I just add a point about the co-op program?
absolutely, sure.
Yeah, so I know that one of the callers had mentioned that before, had asked about internships. So with our co-op program, that's again open at Widener to business, engineering, and computer science students, you actually work full time while you're out on co-op. And you're paid an annual, an hourly salary that could range from $14 an hour to more than $20 an hour, depending on the major and the industry. So that can be a significant sum if you're working for 4 months full time or 8 months full time, and you're not paying tuition while you're out on co-op. So I just wanted to add that.
Damaris, I would also say that, I think, I'm not sure if you're a freshman student or incoming freshman or if you're a transfer student, but it is, financial aid is a big part of going to college, and Widener is, I think, very generous with its merit scholarship awards. So if you are a pretty decent student, we generally are able to provide you a pretty significant merit scholarship to help bring your costs into a more manageable state. And then, you can balance that with some of the other options that have been offered to you in terms of work study, maybe getting a regular job off campus. I mean, when I was in school, I waited tables and I did a lot of things to help make ends meet and pay for books and the things that I needed to go to school with. So I think we can definitely help you make things affordable and make things feasible for you in college. There was one question that I wanted to go back to real quick because I skipped over it. And this is a good one for Adea. Are classes more lecture-based or discussion-based? Maybe if you can just talk a little bit about what the classroom environment is like in general, that would be great.
So I would definitely say that classrooms are more lecture-based. A lot of the professors, they expect a response right back. Oh wait, my bad, not lecture-based, my bad, discussion-based. It's more discussion-based. A lot of professors even say that they don't really want to stay in the classroom and just give a lecture and just know that people are kind of just zoning out. Like they want to actually get people's feedback on what they think.
Yeah, I would tend to agree, and I've been a part of a lot of schools of similar size. I've worked for a lot of different schools of similar size to Widener, and I would say that most faculty, even at larger schools, are much more interested in having discussion-based classes than to be lecturing from the front of the classroom and having people just take notes. I don't think professors enjoy that. I don't think the students in the classroom enjoy that. But it is discussion based is always more enjoyable, and that is the bulk of what the Widener students experience is a much more engaging education environment where the faculty really want to know what you think and what you're interested in and what kind of questions you have. They even want to talk about things that you may not agree with them and they may not agree with you, and they're open to those discussions and talking through multiple different perspectives on subject areas, which is great as well. So I think we're getting close to wrap up time here. We're going to go over a couple minutes, but that's okay. Just if we can go around, are there any other pieces of advice you would give to a high school senior who is either in the midst of their college search or beginning their college search or their application process? But I'll open it up to anyone who wants to jump in.
So I started playing the violin when I was in 5th grade, and I went to a pretty small school district, so we had the same orchestra director all the way through elementary, middle, and high school. And one of the things I remember our instructor saying to us that has stuck with me to this day is to be early is to be on time, to be on time is to be late, and to be late is to have never arrived. And that cannot be more true than it is in the admissions process. It is so important that you start working on this process now. Don't wait until the last minute to complete your applications or to start your essay, because you do want to have someone take a look at them and make sure you don't have any typos and that the grammar is okay. So really pace yourselves. The other sort of example that I use with my students all the time is Aesop's fable of the tortoise and the hare, right? The tortoise is very slow, they're racing, the hare thinks, oh, it's a tortoise, like it's gonna take its time, like I'm gonna zip through. The hare takes a nap and the tortoise ends up beating him after all, right? So this is a marathon, it is not a sprint, and you have to figure out what is that sustainable pace to get you through this year so that you can do the work that needs to be done and to do it well and to be able to submit it on time so that you don't miss out on any opportunities for admission to the college of your choice and for scholarship opportunities as well, whether those are being offered by the college or through local organizations. So slow and steady wins the race, and get stuff done early.
So I would add to that and agree with that, the focusing in the pre-college process, what you're doing this year. And then I would say on the other end, when you get to college, be prepared to be surprised, expect to be surprised, be open to being surprised. I'm writing a letter of recommendation right now for a student who's graduating this year, who started out as an engineering major, discovered that wasn't for her, developed a passion for political science and journalism. She wants to be the press secretary for the president one day, and now I'm writing recommendations for her for journalism school, and she would not have pictured that when she was 18. So focus now, make the best college choice for you, and then let the process unfold once you get there.
Mm-hmm.
I guess
any advice?
I guess my one piece of advice, it would just be to pick the college that you feel like best suits you. I definitely chose Widener because I just like the small like campus size. I like the music department, and I also like the business department too. And also maybe when choosing like a major, and also minor too, maybe try doing like a process of like elimination. I first thought that I probably would go into psychology, and then I was like, man, that's not for me. And then I thought I would go into hospitality management until I realized I didn't really work in like a restaurant or a hotel. And then I chose marketing instead. And even I had a minor in business analytics, and I realized I didn't like that, so I ended up dropping that too. So, yeah, just like really think over. I mean, you have time. It's not like a sprint. You know, you have your time.
I would just wrap up to say, enjoy. I know it's difficult to see this now, or for you to kind of think about this now, but enjoy this process. Don't panic. You will get into college. If you want to be in college, you will make it somehow. It may not be the path you initially thought of or imagined. You might, you've kind of heard that old adage, a closed door is just a new opportunity to find an open one. So embrace your college search. Don't panic. Do the best that you can. There is always a way. And that's why we're here. We're all here to help you to figure it out and find the way. So I look forward to working with any students who are here online this evening. If you have additional questions, I think they just posted in the chat. Feel free to reach out to admissions.office@widener.edu. And do not hesitate to reach out to us with other questions. But thank you to our panel this evening. But with that, I think we're going to wrap up our chat for the evening. If you need anything, please let us know, and have a great night. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.